Welcome to the Love Clarity Podcast, where you come to heal your relationship trauma and learn to love deeply without losing yourself. Welcome back to the Love Clarity Podcast. Today's guest is someone who reminds us what it means to rebuild and thrive through a personal challenge, not just survive it. Marie Fredrickson, known to many as Lipstick, Heels, and Babies, and Future Nurse Breasty. These are the two accounts she has, is a two-time breast cancer survivor, a mother, a storyteller, and now a future nurse. But what makes Marie unforgettable is how she owns her story. She shows us what it looks like to go from being unseen in the medical system to becoming the kind of presence for herself, for others that she once needed. And yes, there's a beautiful full circle moment here where Marie messaged me one day and said, I just realized your husband's my oncologist. He had never said a word to me, of course, because of HIPAA compliance. But when I saw what Marie had done with the cards that life had dealt her with, I just knew our paths must cross. So if you've ever felt dismissed, misdiagnosed, or invisible in your own healing, or if you're standing in between trauma and transformation, this one is for you. Marie, welcome. I'm
Thank
so
you.
honored to welcome you here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so honored to be here.
Yes, I can't wait to ask you I have so many questions for you. And how do you feel about me just beginning?
Please, let's do it. I'm so excited.
Okay. So Marie, take us back to the moment when you decided to go into nursing. What was that moment for you?
I really feel that the moment hit me after my second diagnosis, stage 4 breast cancer. I've had nurses at my oncologist's office and then also at a hospital that I go and got treatment at monthly. And they would always tell me, it's so funny. We always think that you are in the medical field because of how informed you are and you understand protocol better than most. And it was one of them that suggested, like, have you ever thought about going back to nursing school? And I'm like, no, I have a bachelor's in education. I have my own little side company. I never thought about going into nursing. And then when I was re-diagnosed, I had just a wave of emotion and I felt that like I had a calling. And I think I help a lot of women behind the scenes in, Instagram and from people bringing us together through the breast cancer world. I do a lot of advocating and I help them just without the letters behind my name. And I thought, what a platform I have right now. If I become a nurse and I can get into an oncology office, how much more I could help these people and just be an advocate and show so many that there's hope and just share my story. And it was once I was diagnosed, I feel like you have a purpose or you can kind of sit and feel like a victim. And I always look for the purpose. And when that was a suggestion for me, I looked into programs and it kind of just started coming together. And when a plan like that unfolds, I feel like it's meant to be, it's destiny. And it's truly helped me. Right now it's my kids and it's school. And obviously I'm doing treatment for breast cancer, but I'm not fixating on anything bad because it's taking a lot of my time and it's helping me heal.
Yeah. And Marie, I just really love and I want to point out how you are so in touch with that inner voice within you where you already had begun serving before you decided to go and get any formal training for it. And I love how yes, there was some mention by somebody saw that light in you, but then there was this something ineffable that you experienced within yourself, and you were like, "Wow, I'm doing this. This feels like purpose."
Yes. And it's so funny when you start something like that, just by starting classes. And I just had this moment, this like sigh of relief, like, oh my gosh, I think this was the path I was always supposed to be on. I don't know why it took me this long to get there, but that's for a higher power to know, right? And it came at the right time in my life. And it's been a blessing. School has been a blessing to me right now, with everything that I'm going through.
Yes. In spiritual psychology, we always hold that it's always the right time.
Yep.
We're meant to know and we're meant to know. Now, Marie, you're known as at lipstick, heels, and babies.
Yes.
So tell us the story behind that name.
Okay, so originally it was actually Lipstick, Heels, and Char. My daughter's name is Charlotte. And it represented my identity. I've always been into fashion and makeup. I was a makeup artist and I had owned my own salon, did hair and makeup, and then I did styling for photo shoots. So it kind of just encompassed me as a person. When we had our second via surrogacy, I felt that I needed to change that. It couldn't just be Lipstick, Heels, and Char anymore. So I changed it to Lipstick, Heels, and Babies because it encompasses who I am as a person.
That's beautiful. And also it names so clearly so many women out there who are on this journey together. And then to merge with that, with motherhood,
Yes, juggling
breast
it all.
cancer. Yep. Yep. It's just perfect. It's perfect way for people to find you. And I hope that they do. And my hope for this podcast is that as well. So you've shared, Marie, that you were misdiagnosed and dismissed. How does that experience fuel the kind of nurse you want to become and even your decision to become a nurse?
It's one of my biggest decisions in becoming a nurse because, like I said, I've always been into advocating, and I have dozens and dozens of women that reach out to me every week. And the biggest thing that I tell them is you have to advocate for yourself, whether it's a fear of having breast cancer or a medical condition, or you're in the treatment right now and you just want to be heard. And it's one thing that I find so amazing when you find a medical provider that gives you that. And your husband is one of them. Always make sure that he listens. Just because he has letters behind his name does not mean he knows better, and to just truly listen to the patient. And I want to be able to do that because so many times doctors didn't listen to me, and it led to 2 years being misdiagnosed when I was 25. And if a doctor had just listened to me, and it wasn't one, it wasn't two, it was three, they were fooled by my age. And I think as a nurse, I just want to be a provider that absolutely listens and knows, because I've been there, that you know your body best. And if you feel like something isn't right, then something's not right. And we can't brush off people anymore because they're young. And it was just something that really obviously affected my diagnosis altogether, but it's really helped me in advocating and helping others advocate for themselves.
Yeah, and Marie, we can get excited about how amazing my husband
I
is
know he
as a
really is.
physician together because I have such a lot to
You're
say about
very
him.
lucky.
I have to say that I remember when my husband was training and he said to me, he looked at some of his attendings and he was like, you better tell me if I ever become a person who becomes unaware of the pain that people go through, who becomes almost like not sensitive to what people are going
Right.
through. And I said, okay, mental note, I'll keep this. And I was
Yeah.
like, okay, this is probably gonna take a few years, and it's never
Never
happened. I mean,
happened.
he's been in this field now for 30 years, and it's just I sometimes I'm baffled as to how he does it. And sometimes I want to get upset with him, but I get whiffs of what he does for humans. I have had my own uncle who went through cancer. He was such a dear human on this earth for me, and he was in such a disarray. And when my husband called him, I cannot be grateful enough. Those were the last few months, the last few weeks of his life, that when my husband spoke to him and his family, the change in him, like my
Yeah.
jaw was like it dropped. I was like,
Yeah.
whoa, like words and compassion coming from a professional like that. And my husband and I have been on the spiritual psychology journey, and I have a a membership called the Love Clarity Inner Circle and a school. And all of these, there's a lot of physicians in that group. And they all were requesting that my husband come on and say the insanity, because I shared with them that he brings spiritual psychology in his practice, and they were like, "Oh my God, you have to have him." So I've got to
Yes.
organize that at some point. But yes, that is so important. And what you share right now and what you are doing by speaking out and having this community is so important right now as medicine begins to shift and
Yeah.
medicine becomes more corporate. It becomes even more essential for people to be awake to being their own advocate. So it's
Yeah.
really come at such a beautiful time in a person like you who is going to be the one who's gone through it in this field. I cannot tell you how amazing this is.
I'm so excited. And just because I know a lot of my breasties are going to be listening to this. And one thing that I share with every single one who messages me, I first thing I tell them is that it is okay to fire an oncologist. If
Yes.
you don't have that relationship, essentially it's kind of like choosing a partner for life or a friendship, or it's someone that basically kind of holds your health in their hands, and you need to be a team together, and they need to make you feel a certain way. And if you don't feel that from them, if you don't feel the compassion, if you don't feel like you're being heard, you need to find somebody else, because that is so important on your health journey. Whatever that health journey is, it could be just that you have a sore throat. Your doctor or your oncologist, whoever it is, you need to feel that you are not just another number and that you are heard, and they do exist. I wish that every single person in the world could see your husband. I truly do. But it affects your outcome so much.
Yes.
It's so important. So important.
It really is. And it's so important to have your own advocacy. I
Yes.
have a therapy practice, and on a regular basis, when I will even tell, when I'm even helping people sign on and directing them, because I do coaching, and I have a very limited number of one-on-one people that I can take. And when I'm directing them to my own therapy practice, my own therapist that I train, I always tell them that, listen, one or two sessions, by the third session, if you're not gelling, ask for a new therapist or
Yeah.
even go to a different practice, because this is your journey. You are responsible for it.
Yep.
To not have that.
Yes.
And I'm speaking in a therapist format, and that is very professional. But as you grade yourself higher into deeper medicine, and oncology is as deep as you get.
Yep. It
So
really is.
you get really scared, and you have this respect, which is wonderful, for the medical professional, for example, the therapist, but understanding that that person is human and you have to follow your instincts.
Yeah.
I have noticed that you do that. You've been
Yes.
constantly doing that. And to encourage women and men, all humans, all genders, to be someone who's also tuning in and attuned to their bodies, that they are advocating for themselves and their healthcare. It's so important. So,
It
Marie,
is.
another question that I have for you is that how did motherhood shape the way you process this journey? People it is hard enough to have cancer one time. You had it twice. It's hard enough just to have cancer, period, and to go through treatment. You did it with motherhood. Oh my God, that is like insane. It's like, yes, it's so tell us,
It's
how did you do it?
it's so funny. So my first diagnosis, my daughter was 5 weeks old. My second diagnosis, my son was 6 months old. And I always am one of the person, I always will find, a glass is always half full, never half empty for me. And that's just how I have to live my life. I'm optimistic, and I'm very positive, and nothing will ever change that. And I like to always believe there's a reason that I was given both these diagnoses with babies. And it's incredibly hard. But I keep going so that my kids know that I will never give up. And I hope that I am here when I'm 80 years old. I'm very not only optimistic, but I truly do believe that. And I hope when they're adults, they kind of look back and they're like, wow, mom went through all of that. She was going through treatment. That's what she meant when she didn't feel good, when she was tired, but she still got up and played with me. And she still went to school and became a nurse so that she could help others. And I do everything. And I think my willpower is just, is my kids. I mean, my husband, I love my husband. He's an amazing man. But,
Yes.
and you probably know this too, as a mom, you get like a superpower
Yeah.
for your children. And I sometimes, so many people would always say, I'm so sorry, you went through this with kids. And I always tell them, don't be sorry, because it saved me in a way. It gave me so much hope, and it gave me just such a fight and a will inside of me that I think that I've always had that will, whether I had kids or not, but my children intensify it. And I'm very open with my daughter. Not like, too open, but, she knows that Dr. Bari is giving me a beautiful magical pill that's helping me and making mommy's cancer hopefully go away. But sometimes mommy's tired, and I'm very open about it, but I'm realistic. And I'm a mom before anything else, before how my symptoms are, before school, before anything, I'm a mom. And then I don't know, I just try to focus on them, and it really just helps me make it day by day.
Yeah, and I have a story that's coming to me, Marie. As you know, that I do relationship counseling. I had a woman, a dynamic, powerful woman who had gone through the IVF process with her husband, but the marriage was in a condition that the embryo was ready, but the fertilization had already happened, but the marriage was in a condition that she didn't feel comfortable bringing the baby forward. She went through such a process of thinking this and that. And then finally, months had passed and her husband wasn't really coming around. And I had and then it was in like a middle position. And I made a deal with her because I was preparing her for that moment when she is now, right now, just doesn't have a baby. And when she has a baby, is she going to be able to handle it? And I remember asking her, and I said to her, okay, you have to make a deal with me that you are going to be okay raising this child all on your own if your marriage doesn't work out. That's the only, because she was there with me in a session to decide whether she should go ahead with it or not. And I remember that, we made a video that she would watch. We had multiple ways for her to say to her future self. And we did a lot of processes. She decided to have the baby. And I want to share with you what she said to me. And she says, I always thought that the baby's going to make me feel weak, but I have never in my life felt stronger. The
Yeah.
baby itself is giving me this strength that I never knew was even possible in humans. And I
Yeah.
just, it's just so
It's
powerful
so
because,
true.
right, as a single woman, as a young woman, I would think, oh, the babies are going to bring me down. They're going to make me, and sure, I mean, I still have, my question is very relevant because just the sheer amount of work and expectations that
Yeah.
you have as a mother and the duties that can't be looked away, it just increases, makes it complicated. And it gives you the strength that is superhuman, I would say.
It is. That just goes to everything. Their timing is always a purpose for some reason, right? And you never know what that is, why she was meant to have that child right at that very moment. Maybe it was to help her get through that moment in life and that the trauma that she was going through. These babies can, I swear, cure trauma. They
Yes.
really can. And I wouldn't trade it for the world. They're the
Wonderful.
best medicine.
That's so beautiful. So, and Marie, in one reel, you said the wild thing about cancer is you feel more like yourself than ever. That's like, what did you mean by that? Can you walk us through that moment when you felt that?
I remember that. I remember that reel. And honestly, I believe, and it's so funny because it really ties in with your podcast. I believe that trauma forces clarity, and it pushes you to dig deep and ask, like, who am I really? Who do I want to be? And then become that person unapologetically. And the trauma from cancer will do that to you. And it gives you this clarity. It's like overwhelming. And you just have a very clear picture with whether you have, and to be honest, this goes for anybody because we never know what tomorrow brings. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Whether any person on this planet has one day left to live or 100 years, who do you want to be? And when you feel like you have like a death sentence, whether it's valid or not, it really kind of just encourages you to figure that out and figure that out fast. And my diagnosis both times really just opened my eyes to just unapologetically being myself and not being sorry for protecting my peace or for going whatever course or direction I want to be, whether that someone's going to be proud of that or is going to have something to say about that, just being true to myself and figuring out who I want to be and being that person proudly. And I feel like a cancer diagnosis really kind of it hits you really fast and you figure out who you want to be. And at that moment, I just really kind of came to terms with I feel so much peace because I know who I want to be. And I
That's
just
amazing.
felt more in my skin than any other time.
And what would you say is one belief that you had to let go of to reclaim your power?
Oh man, I would say to claim my power, I think I had to let go of filling other people's cups when mine were empty. And that was a really big thing that I carried with me through both of my diagnosis and realizing that eventually you have to put yourself first. And obviously, my family, my children, I put them first as well. But in a path to healing, you really have to learn how to focus on yourself. And I'm not a person that generally does that. I always focus on others, and I think that was one of the biggest beliefs that I kind of had to. I had to let go of. Yeah, basically protecting my peace is was non-negotiable anymore.
That's the thing about something that is as clear and blatant as cancer, as final as cancer, it makes you become clear. So I want to
Yeah.
ask you, Marie, what relationships in your life, your friendships, your family, of course, your romantic relationship, which relationships surprised you by showing up for you, and which were maybe, if you feel like speaking about it, which surprised you in another way?
Oh, I love talking about this because this is a really big thing in the cancer world. You know, when I was diagnosed, I remember I was 26, had a baby in my hand, and then my surgical oncologist said, like, one more thing. I want you to know that there's some really high statistics that a lot of relationships don't survive cancer, and this includes your marriage. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm sorry, what? Like,
Yeah.
how could someone leave you in your darkest hour? I couldn't even fathom that, especially with like with a spouse, you know, and your vows, it's sickness and in health, and that's supposed to mean something. And she said, you know, and it happens with friendships too. And I was convinced that that would absolutely never happen to me, but they were right. And I've learned that you know, the trauma doesn't just expose your strength, it really exposes your relationships and it reveals who really is going to be there for you. And not just like who's going to be there for you when you don't have something to bring to the table. And I was really shocked at some of the friendships, and whether it was because, you know, they didn't know how to be there for me or what the reason was, I was alarmed and shocked at some of the friendships that dwindled down. And you know, suddenly I started to not get invitations to things. They didn't come with me to my chemos, which I thought was crazy because I think you think about what you would do in that situation for someone else. So if this was my best friend, what would I do going through that? And we lost a lot of friendships. And I took it very personal until I started to join groups and until I started to start advocating for breast cancer. This is one of the number one things that is talked about is losing relationships when you're going through trauma and especially cancer. And I would like to believe it's that the person doesn't know how to be there for you during this experience. Um, but it was really hard. You know, you're sitting there sick and you don't really have time to grieve these relationships either because you're so busy, you know, fighting for your life.
Yeah.
But you wonder, like, why can't you just call me and pick up the phone and say, hey, how are you doing? Or why can't you come and just sit with me during chemo? Or I don't know, it's crazy. My husband, however, we're fine. We never
Mhm.
that didn't wasn't even a question. I think it made us so strong, and he's been a rock through the whole journey. He's very optimistic person and likes to remind me to not get into my head too many times. I'm a big researcher, so I'll just sit. Your husband tells me to stop too. It can be good and it can be really bad.
Yeah.
But he's been great. But my friendships, and this time around, saw what had happened the first time around. This time around, I really wanted to protect my peace. I
Mm.
knew that going to school, having two children, going through this again, if it doesn't fill my cup, it's not for me. And
Mhm.
that's okay. I don't hold bitterness, I don't hold grudges, but you really have to protect your peace. And yeah, it's been hard. That's been the hardest part about cancer, has just been the loss of friendships.
Yeah, and if it costs you your mental health, it's
Yeah.
too expensive.
Yeah.
But I was, and you know what, my understanding is, and this is just like my own study, and it could be completely wrong. It could just have no real basis. Is that my understanding is that, and I hate to do things with genders because genders are now, they're changing, and these, hopefully the new men and the new women that are coming up are going to do different things. But what I understand is that men are usually the ones who will leave women,
Yes.
and that they with a cancer, they want to come apart, and the women literally have the opposite reaction, that if they were actually going to leave, they start to come in.
Yep. And that's crazy.
Like,
I
ironic.
know. And I think
Seriously.
it's just wanting, you face this like mortality, and you're like, okay, well, I don't want to be alone.
Yeah.
So this person made me happy at one point, even though it but yeah, I've read that too, and I thought that was
Yeah.
about women. And I'm like, wait, what? Like, don't you want your peace to be good before like
Yes.
something?
But Marie, what advice, like, I want you to think about the people who are listening right now. And
Yeah.
what advice do you have for someone whose friend has cancer? Like, people are different, some people are very private. What advice can you give to people who are in positions to support someone who is working with cancer?
The biggest thing is just picking up a phone and calling them. And
Yeah.
that's where I understand excuses, but at the end of the day, if you can't sit with them during chemo, if you just pick up a phone and call them, just text them. I had one friend of mine, and I love her so much. When I went through my second diagnosis, she set alarms on her phone. She's a nurse. She set alarms on her phone to text me every 6 hours to just say, I'm thinking of you. I love you. Don't text me back. Just know I'm thinking of you. Text me
Oh,
if you need me. And it's just like, how much time out of that day does that take? 5 seconds?
these are love texts.
It's love text. And it's, a lot of time the person going through cancer, they're going to tell you what they need. It'll be hard. Some people, like for me, it's hard. I'm a very independent person. But if I need something, I think that the person that's constantly reaching out to me and showing me they love me no matter what. And of course, my cousin, she came over and just had a sleepover with me, right? She just
Mm.
brought dinner and a sleepover, and it was the best.
It's
So
perfect. Yeah.
it's just like, and taking the time to go on Facebook and be like, or Instagram, and say, look, my friend's going through cancer. Can anyone send me any recommendations on what's worked for them? I just think someone taking the time out of their day to want to learn how to help someone that they love that's going through a hard time is so special. But the biggest, I mean, literally a phone call, that 5-second phone call that just says, I love you. If you need anything, just let me know. And it's
Yeah.
so easy and so simple to do. And one of my favorite things when I was first diagnosed, my cousin, you have a lot of people making you food and stuff. And I never really thought about doing this. And now I have done it for others when they've been diagnosed. She got a cleaning company for me when I was going through chemo. When you're going through IV chemo, you have to be very, very careful with your white blood cell count being low. So everything has to be very, very clean. And you don't obviously have the energy to clean a house like that. So I thought that was one, when people ask me, like, money's no object, what can I do? And I'm like, well, if you could do a cleaning service for them while they're getting chemo, that was just, it was so sweet. And I'll never forget that.
Yeah. One of the moms at my children's school did this. I love how intuitive and amazing women are to each other when they are that way, that we all were like, oh my God, like she has cancer. And so she started collecting money. And what she did is that she got it was a catering service. I love the idea of cleaning company. I
Yeah.
didn't know that was possible. That is a
Yeah.
really good idea. But she got a catering company and she basically put a credit in there so that a lot of people are bringing casseroles, they're bringing
Yes.
diet things that are not in that person's diet, or
Yes.
maybe somebody's low carb or whatever it is.
Yes.
So that they had enough of an array of choices that she could just keep ordering when
I
she
love that.
wanted. They get delivered. So this is, and
Yes.
people do that even when there's a passing or something difficult that's
Yes.
going on. But these are really, women can be so resourceful. It's
They really
beautiful.
can. They really can. And, so many times, though, I think so many of these women that I've talked with, all they really truly want, those things are so appreciative. But when it comes to your core group of
Okay.
people, you just want to know that they're thinking of you while their life is going on like normal.
Yeah.
Because in a way, your life just freezes. You're
Okay.
sitting here and you're like, oh my God, my world, every day is a doctor's appointment, every day's a scan. I have this, I have that. And then you go on Instagram or you go on Facebook and everyone's just living their best life. And I'm the type of person that's like, well, I'm still going to live my best life. I'm not going to just sit here on a couch and be like, oh, poor me, I have cancer. But you still want to know that those people are not forgetting while
Yeah.
Marie's going through a hard time. I just want to make sure she's good. Or she hasn't messaged me in a few days. I just want to make sure. Even just seeing that text and being like, you don't have to respond, just know I love you. And you're like, wow, that person just thought of me. It really goes to show the people that are silent, though. And it's shocking. Some of your best friends, one of my closest people in my life, this has happened to. And when they're silent and all these other people are not, you're kind of just like, oh my gosh, what is happening? Because that would never be the case if you were in my position.
Yeah. And for all of the rest of us who don't know what to do,
Yeah,
you might text that person and say, I'm being so weird. I don't know what to do. Can you tell me how to be a friend to you right now?
exactly. And ask.
Mhm. That those love messages, as you explained, love is what heals.
Yeah.
So it's like that friend who put the alarm on and was texting you periodically. She probably doesn't realize that those little doses, micro doses of love, keep a person afloat when the whole universe is like kind of,
Yeah.
um,
Crumbling down.
awry, basically.
Yeah.
So finish this sentence for me, Marie. People think surviving cancer is about this, but for me, it's been about this.
You know, I think a lot of times people think surviving cancer is about your health, right? Which of course it is.
Yes.
But for me, it's more about finding my purpose. And it's about why was this part of my story and what am I going to do with it? And obviously, my health is my number one goal, and I'm doing everything that I'm supposed to do. But at the end of the day, you got to let go of control. And I can't fixate on my disease any longer. So I try to use it to figure out my purpose in life. And I did that in the beginning and doing it now with the nursing career and just learning how to take something that is so bad and turn it into something that fulfills me and that leads me to a bigger purpose.
Yeah. And so, Maurice, people will go through some challenge or the other in their lives. It's the human experience. What's something you wish every person would say to themselves during a hard season?
That it's just a season and it will pass.
That's
That
amazing.
it's not forever. And that is so important in anything. It could be something as simple as something that's hard's going on at work right now. It's just that. It's a season. And I think so many times we look at something like cancer and we think, it's a sentence, right? This is it. And it's not. This season will pass. No matter what, this season's going to pass. It's not going to be this way forever. And one of my biggest things that I've had to really kind of help others understand is when you fixate so much on the bad in all of this or the fear, when you're fixated on this disease and it coming back or your next scan or whatever, you are missing out on beautiful time that you have right now. And that could be on anything in life. When you're so fixated on why something is going wrong and why it's not going your way, or why, your world's crumbling down, if you don't start to turn that fixation into something good and find the good in it, or figure out a way out, or shifting the waters, you're never going to get anywhere. You're just going to be stuck in this like hamster wheel, and you got to get off of that. And it took me a long time to do that, but you can't waste beautiful days fixating on any like storm in your life.
Yeah. And the hamster wheel is almost like negative manifestation where you accidentally give so much emotional attention to something that you don't want, that you keep on
Mhm.
creating precisely that you don't want, almost like wishing and praying for your
Yep.
worst nightmare.
Yeah.
And it's almost like, wherever the attention goes, that's where the energy flows. So to be able to watch that, to be able to navigate that.
Yeah.
And what do you think, Marie, would be a question that you wish every patient would ask their doctor or themselves?
A question. I think the biggest it's a really good question. I think what is for yourself personally is
Mhm.
like, what is your goal, right? So if your goal is remission, or your goal is to whatever your goal is, right? Obviously, probably most goals are remission.
Mhm.
Looking at yourself and figuring out how you're going to get there, but also doing your own work as a patient, and not just putting it all in the doctor's hands, and making sure that you're researching and doing your own due diligence so that you bring something to the table with the doctor. And when you ask your doctor, just really making sure that they understand your specific type of cancer, and they or whatever, your diagnosis, your medical problem, making sure that they truly feel confident in being able to treat you, because like I said, you can go to there's so many different doctors out there, and making sure that you guys like you fit, and that you think that you are capable of being in a relationship where your common goal is that you're going to live a very long time in a good health. And I
Mhm.
think it's just so important to do more than just, a lot of patients I feel, and there's nothing wrong with this, they don't, I'll talk to them and they know absolutely nothing about their biology of their cancer. They don't know anything about their pathology. They don't know what their medications are
They're just
supposed to
taking
do.
distance. Yeah.
There, yeah, and that there's nothing wrong with that, but I do believe there's so much power. We have these oncologists that know, they're based scientists giving us these medications to help us. But there's so many things out there, and you can't depend on that one meeting you have with your oncologist for them to be able to cover everything when they're juggling hundreds of patients, their own beautiful family, their own life. You need to also bring things to the table. I never go see my oncologist without easily 20 questions. He knows when he sits down, I'm
Yeah.
like, "Hey, are you ready?"
No,
Here we go.
absolutely. Yeah.
And being able to ping pong off of each other, and be able to truly, it's like kind of like having a job, a career, like the
Mhm.
best way to have a successful business is by two people bringing two successful different things. And
Like
whether
a
it's some,
partnership,
yeah,
like a
that
partnership. Yeah.
it's really important, not just like you're going to the doctor and your doctor's like, "How are you feeling?" You're like, "I'm feeling great." "Okay, bye." And then you wonder, you know what I mean? So many times patients are bringing clinical trials to their doctor, and the doctor's like, "That's great. Let me see if I can get you on this trial." So just not doing your own due diligence in whatever goal you have. If your goal is to get off of a chemo pill, okay, what are you going to do? Maybe it's steps in your diet, maybe it's exercise, maybe there's other ways, to achieve this, and not just showing up and just expecting, your doctor to have all the answers for you.
Yeah, and Marie, it's very scary. And sometimes people just want to, get distance from it. But the more people who are coming out and saying, I have breast cancer. And so other
Yeah.
people can say, me too, me too, me too,
Yeah.
starting your own Me Too movement. And the more positive platforms there are to speak about cancer, to normalize it, because by the way, it's very common.
Yeah.
The better it is for people, because they obviously don't want to go to a platform where everybody's crying, because they're really working hard to be in a positive energy.
Right.
So which is why it's so good what you do. And if someone is listening, Marie, to this, who's in the midst of their own healing, what's one loving step they can take today?
Loving yourself, and loving yourself more than anything else. And you know, if you're in your own silence or your own grief, knowing that you are not hard to love, you're not too much, and you're not meant to walk this journey along. And I think one really important thing, aside from loving yourself, is loving the people around you that are giving you what you need right now, that are filling your cup, making sure your energy is going to them and not to the people that are not there for you, or the doctors that dismissed you, and being grateful for the ones that are here helping you heal, being grateful for the relationships, like that girl that's put on an alarm on her phone for me, making sure that my energy is going into them and not into anything else. And I think that just putting yourself first, and it's okay to do that, which is hard for me because I am not a person that puts myself first. I like to fill the cups of others. I like to always be there for them, but it is okay to be selfish right now in your healing journey, and protecting your peace is all that matters.
And maybe the word is self-honoring. It
Yes.
just, yeah. And Marie, it's just so wonderful to be with you today. And not only did you share very, very important information with us and give us an inside sort of look into what it's like to have this while you have an entire life. And but it's just it's wonderful to see you do this, live this, and to be around your energy.
Thank you so much. Energy is everything. And it can really make beautiful, amazing things happen. I'm all about manifestation,
Yeah.
and you start manifestation with good energy. It's so
Yes, absolutely.
important.
Thank you, Marie, for all of your time. Is there anything you want to say as we say goodbye?
I think what you're doing with this podcast is so great. And, there really truly is healing and clarity, and there's power in truth, and there's life beyond survival. So thank
Wonderful.
you.
And Marie, if when people are listening to you, and they maybe want to be a part of your community, maybe they want to support you, what is the way that they can reach you?
Oh, absolutely. Through Instagram, at Lipstick Heels and Babies, and then also Future Nurse Breasty. I'm happy to help anybody going through any trauma that they're going through, but especially in the breast cancer world, I'm very informed and happy to help any way that I can.
Looks like they can message you on those
Yes.
Instagram. Okay,
Yes.
handles. Wonderful. Thank
Yes.
you.